Okay, kids, listen carefully because I'm only going to say this 48 more times. You are watching The Sweat, and we appreciate the hell out of you for it. She's Jessie, Coffield, and I'm Emerson, Lotzia.
We're running through tonight's NHL slate with Chris Wassel coming up, and which players you should value the most in both the AFC and NFC Championship games.
Wonderful stuff, but let's get this party started with our NBA panel, which tonight consists of DK Live's Julian Edlow, Action Matt LaMarca of the Action Network, and DFS guru Jeff the Empire Eisenband.
I think Emerson just came up with that. Now, time for some over-under, gentlemen. Devin Booker has missed some time with a back injury, but he'll be back in action tonight against the Pacers. So will he go over or under 30 fantasy points in this one, Matt?
Yeah.
Nope.
I think he goes, that was Julian.
Yep.
I think he goes over 30 fantasy points for sure. But the problem is we need significantly more than that at 8,400. We need him to get more into the 45 range for him to be considered a value at that salary. And I think that's a little bit too much to ask in his first game back from injury, especially considering the matchup against the Pacers. They've been the second best defensive team in the league this season. They play at one of the slower paces in the league. So, yeah, I'm not looking at Booker really at his current price tag.
Jeff, do you agree that he goes over 30, but it's not good enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think he goes over 30 just because that, for the most part, Devin Booker goes over 30. If you're expecting him to go under 30, you're expecting that injury to flare up again. But it should be known that the Indiana Pacers are always one of the better defensive teams, and I'm not playing Devin Booker tonight just because you never know what you're going to get against Indiana.
Julian, what do you think? Over or under that 30 fantasy point mark?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to what the guys said here. Booker should always go over 30. That's just not many points for a stud like him. But we need closer to 45. So Booker only exceeded value for his salary once in his last 4 games before going down. And as we touched on, Indiana, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. So the only other fallout here really is that you can no longer play those other Phoenix values like Middleton, like Josh Jackson, because their salaries are now inflated and their roles are going to go down with Booker coming back.
All right, well, here's a good one tonight. Jimmy Butler has been one of the toughest players to figure out this season. Jules, is he going to go over or under 50 fantasy points tonight at home against his former team, the Timberwolves? I know that Tom Thibodeau's not there, but it seemed like his issue was
we like a narrative
with the players. Yeah. So maybe a productive night down narrative street for this guy?
Yeah, I'm generally not really a narrative street guy, but I kind of like this one just because Jimmy Butler can be oh so petty. He's priced to only need around less than 40 DraftKings points to reach value. As one of our DK Live contributors, Alan Lem, tweeted out today, Jimmy Butler said that he circled his first revenge game against the Bulls, and he ended up scoring a season-high 63.25 DraftKings points in that game. So Jimmy Butler's 1 for 1 on revenge games as hitting a home run. So why not do it again tonight at home in Philly?
All right, it's going to be a lot of salt in this one. What do you think here, Matt? You think he goes over 50?
I'm going under. 50 is a big number to ask from him. He hasn't gone over 50 DraftKings points in any of his past 13 games. As long as Joel Embiid is in the lineup and going to continue to command the majority of the usage for the 76ers, I think that's just a really high bar to ask him to clear. I also think that the revenge narrative makes him higher owned than he would normally be in this spot. So Butler, for me, is somebody that's not really on my radar.
Okay, so Jeff, going off of what Matt just said, are you a little concerned about the chalkiness here then with Butler?
I'm going, under 50 fantasy. I think the frustrations for Jimmy Butler not necessarily fitting in Philadelphia continue. Now, if they throw him out with the third or fourth string guys, we can have a different conversation. But I just don't think this is not Jimmy Butler's team. This is Joel Embiid's team and then Ben Simmons' team. I just don't think it happens.
All right, guys, Chris Middleton could be poised for a big game if the Greek Freak is out. So you see him going over or under 34 DK points, Jeff?
I think that he goes over, especially, if Giannis is out. I think that you're never going to get, even with or without Giannis, you're never going to get a crazy Chris Middleton game, but he's playing well. Without Giannis the other night, he played 37 minutes, so I think that has to be factored in. So I go over with Chris Middleton.
Where are you going on this one? Let's see. Who else are we talking to here?
You want to go, Matt?
Julian?
Yeah. Thanks for remembering everyone's name, Jesse.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Look, Middleton is always an awesome play when Giannis is out. The only problem is Giannis is listed as probable, which means he's probably going to play. So, like, if Giannis is going to play, that's a really tough number for Middleton, although he has been playing really well lately, generally in that 31 to 32 point range. So if Giannis is out, I'll definitely take him over 34 DK points. But assuming that Giannis is in there, then sure, he's going to be right in that 30 to 35 range probably.
Yeah, Middleton is averaging just over 34 fantasy points per game. Thanks, Emerson. So, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, we have him right now projected for 33.7 in our NBA models at Fantasy Lab. So I think this number is pretty much right, dead on Bulls accurate. Great line set by the line maker over at DraftKings. I will take a slight under, I guess, based on that number. But I think that, overall he's just fairly priced considering the role.
Sweat that one out.
Ooh, I like that. Well done, guys. Klay Thompson, though, and the Warriors aiming to take over the top spot in the West tonight with a dub over Denver. You feeling over or under 38 fantasy points for KT, Matthew?
I'm going under. The one thing I will say is that if it's going to be an over, it's probably going to be a way over. We know how Klay does it. Like, he gets really, really hot in these certain games and just absolutely fills it up. But more often than not, he's looking at, closer to 30 than 38. So I think that this is an under, especially against the Nuggets, who have been pretty tough defensively this year.
All right, Jules, where are you going? 38 points here for Klay Thompson. I'm reading your cheat sheet here on DraftKings.com/playbook.
Good read.
And you seem to like Klay Thompson this evening. Can you tell the folks why?
Well, I mean, I mentioned him as a potential tournament target. I don't know if I'm going to take him over 38 DraftKings points in this spot necessarily. I think that Klay can be a sneaky play because, like Matt just said, if he goes over, he goes way over. So he's going to, he has the potential to knock down 10, 11 threes. Anybody like that has to be kind of on your radar, especially in a contrarian spot. And the reason that I wrote him up is because he's in one of the worst shooting guard matchups that you could have. Denver ranks third in DraftKings points allowed to the shooting guard position. So I think he would be a really contrarian play. But if I'm taking the over-under on 38, it's under. The last time these two teams played, the final score was 100-98, so not that many points. Klay Thompson only had 26.75 DraftKings points in almost 37 minutes, so it's definitely not a spot that you want to hammer Klay Thompson into all your lineups.
All right, Jeff, it's up to you.
I'm going over. First of all, you can't predict Klay Thompson with analytics. He's too obscure of a human being. He's gone over 38 in 3 of his last 5. A lot of people were critiquing Klay Thompson about a month ago for shooting woes. I think he's got his shot back a little bit, but to be frank, I just stay away from basically all Warriors in DFS just because you never know what's going to happen on any given night.
Solid advice. You three hang tight. Need you for Tears of Joy coming up right after we take an early look at Sunday's AFC Championship with Reed, Steve, and Jeff.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The MLB hot stove's heating up as there may be a blockbuster trade on the horizon. According to a report from The Athletic, the Padres, Indians, and Reds are discussing a 3-team trade that would ultimately send 2-time Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber to Cincinnati. Before that, Kluber would find himself briefly in San Diego with the Padres, who would then flip him to the Reds as they search for a young, long-term option at third base. The apple of their eyes is Reds top prospect Nick Senzel, but it would take a mega deal like this for Cincinnati to even consider moving on from him. As for the Indians, their motivation for moving Kluber looks more to be like a payroll move, along with cashing in and acquiring some of San Diego's young talent. Last season, Kluber was able to put up a 20-7 record to go along with a 2.89 ERA and 222 strikeouts, so wherever he goes, an MLB club is getting an ace still very much in his prime.
The AFC Championship is going down on Sunday in Kansas City between the Chiefs and the Patriots, and that can only mean one thing.
What's that?
Our NFL panel is here to play some chase or fade. So bring up DK Live's Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, and Jeff Ulrich, who is bundled up tight right there.
Nice and cozy.
Steve.
It looks like
Steve is triggered. Steve is triggered.
Reed's got his
this week, Steve. Did you
Reed's
know?
got his jacket on, and now we're down on a 2-man panel now.
No.
Jeff, let's start with you. You look nice and cozy. The Patriots are underdogs for the first time all year. They're +3 in KC on Sunday. Chaser fade, New England covers, and what I hear could be a chilly.
Wait, save it. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, look, I mean, this is the road Patriots. Everyone's, oh, the Patriots are back, the playoff Patriots, whatever. Been terrible on the road. Lost to the Titans. Lost to the Steelers. Lost to Miami. Those are not playoff teams. And now they're going to go in and cover against the Chiefs, basically beat. I mean, this is only a 3-point spread. There's no respect to Kansas City being given here. I don't think they're going to cover. I would not take this at all. I think this is, I said this yesterday, I don't think it's a good spot for the Patriots, and I meant it. They've been horrible on the road all year. So definitely fading the Patriots are going to cover.
Don't forget the Lions too, Jeff. Anyway,
Yes.
Steven, what are you going to do here? This is your squad, bro.
Man,
Steve?
I'll tell you, I do enjoy a nice troll, and this was these losers obviously put this together and talked about it before the show. So props to you guys. Props to you guys, a bunch of idiots. Look, I mean, I think the Patriots have a legitimate chance of winning this game. I mean, it really is hard to grasp who to favor here. But there's a couple things that I do like about the Patriots here. I mean, Brady's favorite target, Julian Edelman, set up for a really nice matchup this week. We saw how much he leaned on James White in that last game, and that's an area that obviously the Chiefs have struggled in. But, you know, like kind of like what Jeff mentioned, you'd rather this game, at least for the Patriots, to be at home rather than on the road. They have been brutal on the road, 3-5 on the year. And then you look what the Chiefs have done at home. They're 8-1 at Arrowhead Stadium. So obviously it leans towards, you know, the Chiefs here. And obviously we'll talk about the stupid weather in a couple minutes there and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots do have a chance. I mean, it's not a huge spread to cover. And then we saw what kind of shootout these guys have already done already. But, you know, granted it was at Foxborough. But I think the Pats have a chance to win this game. And if not, I think they can definitely cover too. So I'll chase this one.
Yeah, it is not a very big spread here, Reed. So can New England cover?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to, you know, like we talked about yesterday, this is going to be a high-scoring game. Now, does that cover the spread? If you look at historically since 2014, because really when you have to look at the Patriots at this time, you can't look at their regular season. I know they've been bad on the road so far this season, 3-5 with a -9 differential against the spread. But since 2014, they're 10-2 against that spread, and their margin of victory is close into the double digits. And so you can't discount the Patriots. They game plan like the best of them. I know Tyreek Hill went for 3 touchdowns in Foxborough against them. They're not going to let him really beat up on the Patriots anymore. And again, could this be more of a Travis Kelce? Could this be a Damian Williams game? Sure. At the same time, like to Steve's point, I think you really have a guy like James White. You have a guy like Julian Edelman leading on your studs in the playoffs. The Patriots are the best at doing this. Like they've only been away underdogs like once or twice since like 2016. So I like their chances to cover here.
All right, Steve, you're going to love this one. It's what we've all been waiting for. The weather forecast is having an effect on the total for this game. Ooh, it's down from 57.5 to 55. So, Steven, chase or fade, this game will go over 55 despite the weather concerns.
You know, I don't know who Stephanie is, but when I got the notes for today, I was like, is Stephanie in on this rolling down too?
She's our producer. She's our damn producer, and we love her.
Yeah.
Fine. That's fine, but she's getting in on the troll job as well. But
Yeah,
look,
she
I
is.
think this game could go under, but this is before all the weather stuff came into play here. Look, the Chiefs at home, 3-5-1 on the over. Pats as away teams, 3-5 on the over as well. So, look, I talk about it all the time, how much I hate the weather, but if there's one game you actually want to bring it up, like this would be the game here. Like it's actually a legit concern about the weather here. I mean, this is not the 32-degree, 12-mile-per-hour wind all these idiots like to bring up usually. It's like, oh man, it's going to be 30 degrees. We have like an 8-mile-per-hour wind. How are they going to play football in these conditions? Like this is actually a game where the weather is going to be a factor. Like it might get up to like 10 degrees and that might be the high. That's weather that it's going to be tough to play in. So all those things considered, yes, I think this actually can go in the under here. But when we talk about weather, this is what you talk about, not that crap you guys talk about. That it's so stupid.
Okay, so mark the tape. We know what Steve's threshold for talking about the weather is. It's this. It's this right here. So, Reed, we got Steve taking the under here with the weather concerns. So, where are you going on this?
Yeah, it has to be an Arctic blast, right, for Steve to actually really consider the weather.
Yeah.
And look, to the point to what the bettor's like, I'm taking the over here, especially if that number keeps on going down. And I really thought Steve would be in the over on this too. Look, this is going to be a cold weather game. Granted, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to change that. But if this number keeps on going down, if you look at over the last 11 games in terms of the playoffs, in these 55 to 57, if we take that weather out of it, 7 have gone over. And if you hit that 57 mark, 4 of those have gone over. So these high implied game totals, especially of late, have gone over. And I said it before, I think the Patriots are going to have to pass the ball. I know they have this power run style. We saw that with Sony Michel last week, but this is a whole different team. So I like the over. To the Kansas City's point of the under, right? They have the longest streak, and if you follow Ian Harditz, he just tweeted this out. They have the longest streak of not allowing 30-plus points at home, which is about 34 games. And so to that point, I think maybe. But if you look at Tom Brady in sub-30-degree weather, this guy is like 24-4. And in sub-10-degree weather, he's like 5-2 or 4-1. He's really good. So I still like the over in this one.
Jeff, what do you think? I mean, Reed makes a good point. Brady is good in cold weather, but this season hasn't been so great on the road.
Yeah, he was good in cold weather, and he was like 29, and he still had some cartilage left in his legs. They're going to have to chisel Tom Brady out of the turf at halftime of this game. Look,
God.
I come back to the Patriots road record this year. I just don't think this is as good a Patriots team, and they have showed it on the road. They scored 10 points against Tennessee. Emerson mentioned the Detroit game, 10 points against Pittsburgh. These are not like shutdown defenses I'm talking about. They have had real struggles on the road. I think the cold affects the older players more than it does younger players like Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, who have the arm strength to throw through this stuff. So, and by the way, Steve handled this question perfectly. I mean, this is the temperature you start to actually worry about weather, right, in all seriousness. So, I think it's going to be a factor. I definitely take the under here.
Mind blown.
Steve?
Idiots.
Okay. Excellent.
I'm losing like 5 pounds in this segment, by the way.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Sweat it out.
Right? Gronk was targeted a whopping 1 time against the Chargers last week. He made the most of the opportunity, though, guys, holding in for 25 yards.
Wow.
Reed, chase or fade, Gronk has more than 3 catches this week. I was looking at his game log. I believe he's only done this twice since week 5.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to go over that last week. Again, Kansas City is one of the harder teams against tight ends, but now you get one of the best teams against tight ends in Kansas City. In the regular season, they were the best for that position. If you look at Ebron, 9 targets, right, 5 receptions, he didn't score. But if you look at the Patriots and what they've been doing on the road or in these higher implied game totals, they're tossing around the yard about 40 times. And in these higher implied game totals, Gronk is getting an average of 6 targets and 5 catches. So if you just take it on analytics and stats and numbers itself, you should say over. To Steve's point, I really think this is an Edelman. I really think this is a James White type of game. So I got to say under it because Gronk, like you mentioned, Emerson, he hasn't done it that much. So I'm going to take the under here.
All right, with you saying it's an Edelman and James White kind of game means that Gronk is going to absolutely go off on Sunday. Jeff, what do you think? More than 3 catches for Gronk?
Yeah, I'll take the over here. Like Gronk he's kind of been phased out of the Patriots offense. They've gone to more of a power running game. They've just used him more as a blocker, whatever. It's like Jimmy Graham in Green Bay, right? You just don't know when he's going to spike with these games. But I do think this week the Patriots are probably going to be throwing late in this game. I think they're going to have to use him at some point. I think he's going to see more targets than he saw last week. So I'll take the over for 3. It's a dicey situation with him. I mean, taking a real risk if you're using him in fantasy. But he's got some, GPP appeal. Travis Kelce obviously is going to be popular. Obviously, we're talking about a 2-game slate, but I'm going to take the over with Gronk. I think that the Patriots are going to have to throw a lot in this game, even though they probably don't want to. And I think Gronk will get more targets and get over 3 for the week.
All right, Steve, where do you sit on this? Because he's not even being targeted that much.
Yeah, I don't know where Jeff is getting his information or where he's thinking this is going to happen here. I mean, look, matchup-wise, it's a pretty good matchup for Gronk, right? Casey's been one of the worst against opposing tight ends, averaging 65 yards per game, 10 touchdowns scored. But, I mean, just look at last week. I mean, it just really shows that Gronk is just not their offensive guy that they need anymore. He played on 76 snaps, 36 of them were specifically blocking plays. So this is not somebody who they're utilizing for that role anymore. I mean, if there was a matchup that he would be able to do it, it would probably be this one. But I just don't see how they're going to start all of a sudden change everything that works so well against the Chargers. Like, yeah, we need Gronk and his back that is, a prick away from breaking in half again. I mean, it just doesn't really match the gameplay that they're going here. Edelman game, James White game. Gronk's going to continue his blocking, which he's done very well. I mean, some of those running plays
last week was very good for him.
Was totally contingent on Gronk getting some of those pivotal blocks. So I think that's where he's really being utilized well. Keep it that way. I'm going to go under on this one.
All right, our handy-dandy statistician here, Samir, has just sent us a note. In 14 career playoff games, Gronk has only missed the over on 3 receptions 4 times. That included last week.
Wow.
I know.
Good work,
Thank you,
Samir.
Samir. You guys can't see him. He's right off camera. He's a great guy.
Wave to him, Emerson. All right, last week, Sonny Michel and Damian Williams both had exactly 129 rushing yards, but Michel had 3 touchdowns to Williams' 1. So 3 better than 1.
I can confirm that.
Can confirm. So, Jeff, Chaser Fade Williams outperforms Michel this week.
Oh, yeah, I'm chasing this for sure. Look, everything set up perfectly for Sony Michel last week. They got off to a quick start. They were favorites at home. All those factors are probably not going to work in his favor this week. He's basically a 0 in the pass game. All the receptions to running backs, they either go to Burkhead or James White, who will see more field if they get behind. Again, I come back to the Patriots on the road, too. All the big games rushing they've allowed. On the road, Kieran Johnson, Jalen Samuels, those guys went for over 100. The Tennessee running backs combined for over 100 yards rushing. It's a great spot for Damian Williams, who, by the way, is actually a really good running back. He's in the best offense in the NFL. So you're crazy to not take Damian Williams over Sony Michel this week.
Steve, are you crazy?
I mean, literally ditto what Jeff just said.
Oh.
That's my answer.
Wow.
Like, he literally had every single point that I had, so I'm not going to waste everybody's time. You can go to Reed with his dumb jacket.
Okay, retweet. Reed, what's up, man?
This is a very nice jacket, by the way. No, I agree with these guys and what they're saying. And just to add, to dovetail off what Jeff was saying, because, yes, he did hit on all the right points, is they're not going to let Tyreek Hill beat them like he did last time, right? So all of those across the middles, those dump offs, whatever have you, that's going to go to Damian Williams. Spencer Ware doesn't scare you. He's not eating into his time. And he does really look, Damian Williams, that is, he does really look like the most dynamic back that they have. And Andy Reid mentioned it, right? He said he had a pretty good stable of running backs after Hunt went down, and he's obviously very confident in this guy. So, yeah, I'm with Jeff here that Williams has the best option.
Outside of their defensive backs getting tranquilizer guns, Reed, I don't know how you stop Tyreek Hill. So I'm interested to see this plan that the Patriots have.
I don't think they'll be allowed to bring trank guns onto the field.
Dude, you got a dart in your neck.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if that works.
All right, you 3 did your jobs. You did them well. We will have you back to talk about the NFC Championship later on in the show. Jeff, that's indoors, so you can wear your tank top for that segment. We've got Hockey Talk next, right after an NBA slate preview.
Tyler Sullivan here with your first look at tonight's NBA slate, presented by Manny Pacquiao versus Adrian Broner, 2 of boxing's biggest stars in one explosive fight Saturday, January 19th, live on pay-per-view. DK Live's Greg Ehrenberg is here to help us with the 6-game slate in the association. Greg, the Warriors can take the #1 spot in the West tonight with a win over the Nuggets. Who will be the best fantasy player in this matchup?
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest game on the slate from a real-life perspective. And one guy from the Warriors, Draymond Green, we've seen him play kind of limited minutes this year compared to previous seasons. We've seen the Warriors extend him a little bit in big game situations. So I think we could see a couple extra minutes from Draymond Green. He's only 6,300, which historically is a really low price for him. He struggled a little bit this year, but he's shooting 46% since the New Year turn. So maybe he's finally starting to get together. I think he makes for a good upside play.
All right, well, that's the marquee matchup. 5 other games to look at here. Who is emerging as your value pick here?
Yeah, so Amari Spellman is below 4,000. With Devin out last game, Spellman drew the start. He scored over 30 DK points. He's been a little bit of a high variance play, but 9 starts this year. He's gone over 30 DK points in 4 of them. So that's a really good upside for his price.
All right, now hit us with it. That slate-approved pick, the lock of tonight.
It's got to be Russell Westbrook going up against Trae Young and the Hawks. Game has a 233 total per the DK Sportsbook. That is the highest on the slate. And it's just such a good individual matchup for Westbrook, who gets a really small defender in Trae Young. Young is last in the NBA in defensive real plus-minus, so I think that Westbrook should really be able to take advantage of him.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, not a bad play there. All right, Greg, thank you. Once again, Manny Pacquiao versus Adrian Broner this Saturday, January 19th, live on pay-per-view.
All right, time to put this show on ice with Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com. Chris, we are going to be playing Price Check for tonight's 10-game slate in the NHL, and I believe that's a Christmas tree behind you?
Yeah.
That is indeed a Christmas tree. I'm one of the last stragglers.
Yeah.
The tree didn't want to come down yet.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it was a little early, but yeah. I guess you left
keep
it up
it up, man. All right.
Keep
Back to hockey.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. I'm easily distracted.
Yeah, your ADD really comes out.
Yes,
all right,
it does.
Sidney Crosby's the most expensive center tonight at $8K against the Sharks. Do you think he's worth that much of an investment tonight, Chris?
He's about a 50-50 deal tonight, everybody. I mean, he's been up one game, down, up, down, up, down. It's like the old Super Contra code where it's basically left, right, up.
Oh, dude, great
start.
game.
It's been that kind of run lately for Crosby. Goes into a tough environment tonight. San Jose is one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. Martin Jones, as hard as it is to believe for anybody to comprehend, is like 12-3-2 in his last 17 decisions. So, he has a stingy goals against average, even better penalty kill save percentage, surprisingly enough. It could be a little tough sledding for Mr. Crosby tonight.
Contra, top 5 original Nintendo games. There's no debate on that. There's no debate at all. I'm getting a lot of thumbs up on the side here.
Video games.
Yes.
Yes.
Sebastian Aho has a very tempting matchup this evening. He's 6,700 against the Rangers with Henrik Lundqvist and net. He's been super duper gross as of late.
Yeah.
Does this make Aho a must play at that price, Chris?
It absolutely does. He's $1,300 cheaper than Crosby. He's at center, which is a nice bonus tonight. There's a lot of great plays at center. There's Matthew Barzal against St. Louis. I could go up and down. I mean, even Dylan Larkin is a good play tonight. It's just that kind of night where if you go down a little bit off that hot mid 7,000 to 8,000 range, and you go down into the 6s, even maybe the 5s, you can find a lot of good investments tonight.
All right, Artemi Panarin has at least a point in 9 of his last 10 games. So do you expect him to stay hot and be worth 7,100 against the Devils tonight?
Absolutely. Look, the Devils Blackhawks game last night that I had to cover. The first question I asked John Hines was, can you keep it under 3 goals tomorrow night? And he kind of just looked at me and gave me this look, and he just shuddered his head like, no. And that's your first sign. The second sign is Artemi Panarin in the last 6 matchups against the Devils has 3 goals and 7 assists, including 3 points on the power play. Well, by my math, that's about a point in 2/3 every game. New Jersey really cannot stop the top line at all. And they may frankly have problems stopping any line tonight for Columbus.
All right, well, now we have Laurent Brossoit. He has a win in 6 straight appearances, but that doesn't mean he's not giving up goals, 15 during that span, to be exact. You think he'll be a good play at 7,800 tonight against the Golden Knights, or maybe like someone else a little more?
You know what? He's actually a good play. Some of the numbers don't tell the entire story. Guys, he's in those 6 starts, he faced over 37 shots a game, which means, hey, if you give up 2 or 3 goals, would I rather give up 1 goal on 15 shots or 3 goals on 40 shots?
Oh, wow.
I'm going to take 3 goals on 40 shots every time because there's no shutout bonus. I need the points. I know I'm going to get the saves. Vegas is a team that on the road can easily average around 35 shots. And if I can get Brossoit to give up 2 goals on 35 shots and get a win, that is a solid investment at $7,800.
All righty, Slate approved pick time. So who is your lock for tonight's slate, Chris?
Look, in the beginning, I thought about it, and I wanted to go Kucherov again, but if we sit here and go Kucherov, Gaudreau every night, it's going to get boring after a while. And quickly, therefore, tonight, of course, I have another guy going up against a non-rested team, and that, of course, be Matthew Barzal, who's been almost as on fire as some of the top guys, averaging 1.5 points a game over the last 10, and gets a wonderfully delectable matchup against the St. Louis Blues, who, yes, are better on the road. They give up actually almost a full goal game lower, but unfortunately, they're not rested, and they're playing a rookie in one of the more hostile environments in the NHL.
All right, good stuff. As always, Chris, enjoy these last few days with your Christmas tree.
Yep.
The sweat. We'll be right back to talk about the NBA.
Now, Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. It's going to be a cold one at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday when the Chiefs and Patriots kick off the AFC Championship. The National Weather Service is forecasting an Arctic blast hitting the area next Sunday with temperatures ranging from 10 degrees to well below 0. It even has the makings of being the coldest game in history at Arrowhead. Both the Pats and Chiefs are cold weather teams, so they do know what it's like battling the elements. And as for the quarterbacks, both have played at least one game where the temperature was 19 degrees or lower. For Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, that came during his first career start in the NFL in Week 17 in Denver last year. The quarterback was able to complete 22 of his 35 passes for 284 yards and an interception while getting the Chiefs the W in 17-degree weather. Not bad when you consider it was his first career start in the league. And with Brady, he has a bigger sample size in cold weather situations since he's been around for like a million years. His Patriots are 4-0 and the temperatures dipped to 19 degrees or lower. Last year against the Jets in Foxborough, Brady was able to throw for 2 touchdowns and 190 yards in 13-degree weather. Bring the hot chocolate, the hand warmers, all that stuff, KC. It's going to be a doozy on Sunday.
We are back with our ballers. Not you, Emerson. Say hello to DK Live's Julian Edlow, Matt LaMarca of the Action Network, and DFS expert Jeff Eisenband. Now we've gathered you here to get your picks for tonight's Tiers contest.
And away we go. Julian, Tier 1, has 3 players. Russell Westbrook, the Greek Freak again, who is probable for this evening. Joel Embiid. He is playing. Okay, I'm getting confirmation from Stephanie, our
he's playing.
Rock star producer. He is playing. So is Westbrook too chalky for you to pick him here?
No, I don't think so. And when there's 3 players in a tier, I mean, you can't be that worried about going with the chalk. I do think that he'll be the most popular play in it, but with good reason, going up against the Hawks. Okay, he has the highest implied point total of any team on the slate. Atlanta's been one of the worst teams defensively all season, particularly at the point guard position. Trae Young just has no shot at covering Russell Westbrook. So with the way Westbrook's been playing, he had that little slump. He got back to showing us that 80-plus DK point ceiling. I would feel comfortable locking Westbrook in here. And if you read my cheat sheet, Emerson, you would see that he was my stud to pay up for on this slate.
Yep, I was going to let you mention that this time. Matthew.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Matthew, who is good enough to land on your roster?
Yeah, I do agree that Westbrook is the best play in this tier. The matchup is just phenomenal. The Hawks played at the fastest pace. They play very little defense. And Westbrook has looked like his old self of late. That said, I do think that Giannis might have the slightly higher ceiling. Giannis has actually averaged like pretty significantly more fantasy points per minute than Westbrook over the past month. The only thing is he doesn't play a ton of minutes on most nights because the Bucks are just too good and they have a habit of playing in these games where the other team is done by the fourth quarter. So if you do get that Giannis game where he sees, 38 minutes, I think that his ceiling is slightly higher than Westbrook. So I don't hate that if you want to go with a slightly more contrarian option, but I do agree with everything that Julian said. Like in terms of just median outcome, Westbrook has the highest on this slate.
All right, Jeff, so I'll ask you this. Can you make an argument for Joel Embiid?
That is exactly where I'm going with this. And part of the reason both these guys, Julian and Matt just mentioned, they could be in blowouts. The other 2 players, Russell Westbrook and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I look at Joel Embiid, big time player, big time game. You would expect him to be in for all 4 quarters against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know Karl Anthony Towns is a better defender than he used to be, but these are the kind of games that Joel Embiid gets up for, and he's been so reliable the whole season. I go Embiid.
All right, well, Tier 2 has the rest of tonight's superstars. We got Kevin Durant, Paul George, Steph Curry, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, and Ben Simmons. So, Matt, how do you possibly pick from this group? Is there anyone that's like a definite fade for you?
Ooh. I probably wouldn't pick Karl Anthony Towns. I think that the matchup with Embiid is obviously really tough. And I could also see Jimmy Butler just really getting inside of his head as this game progresses. So he might be the one guy that I'm not looking at in this tier. I will say my favorite is probably Nikola Jokic. He's got a great matchup against the Warriors. They've really struggled against big men this season. And he's just so skilled. He's been playing really good basketball recently. His usage rate has taken a nice step forward since the beginning of the season. His first matchup with the Warriors, he had, I want to say like 24 points, 13 boards, and 6 assists, but his usage rate in that game was still relatively low. If he keeps commanding the ball the way he's done recently, I think he has, the ceiling for a much higher performance than that tonight.
Jeff, where are you going on this one?
Well, I think that if you're going to put Kevin Durant in tier 2, and as we said, this is a game that we expect the Nuggets and Warriors to stay close. So this is not a classic Warriors blowout. I'm going to pick Kevin Durant there in tier 2. And in terms of who to fade, I think it should be thrown out that Paul George, who, as soon as everyone got Paul George in the MVP bandwagon, it seems like he started to trail off. And part of that is Westbrook being a better fantasy player. So Paul George under 50 for 4 straight games at this point. That doesn't do. That's why he's in tier 2, and this is a stacked tier 2, so I'd fade him.
What about you, Julian? Anyone you're just staying away from, and who do you like?
Yeah, so for me, I immediately boiled this down to 2 guys, and it was Jokic and Paul George. I don't really have much interest in the Warriors going in what should be a slower-paced game against a really good defensive team in the Nuggets. Ben Simmons is my 3rd favorite Sixer tonight behind Embiid, and obviously I took Jimmy Butler to have a big revenge game earlier. So when you're looking at these 2 guys, Jokic, as Matt just touched on, like the numbers point to Golden State not being able to cover big guys, and the eye test points to it. Like when they played the Blazers, whatever that was, a couple weeks ago, Draymond Green looked like a little kid trying to cover Nurkic. Like they actually need DeMarcus Cousins back to cover big men. So I think Jokic has a tremendous shot to have a really big game against the Warriors. And then Paul George against the Hawks. The Hawks have been playing a little bit better lately. They can maybe keep that game close, but that would mean it would be a really high-scoring game. OKC's been playing at a lot faster pace of late. So you could either stack Westbrook and Paul George together and hope for the most from that game, or if you're going to be somebody that fades Westbrook in that top tier, you get yourself some exposure to that game in Paul George.
All righty, let's look at tier 3 then. Jeff, who do you like?
Well, first, you mentioned Nurkic. I just want to shout out that Nurkic said that Iman Shumpert is near retirement, so he doesn't want to have a back and forth with him. But in terms of this tier, John Collins, let John Collins eat. No Dwayne Dedman for the Atlanta Hawks tonight, which means Collins is going to have to play. He's a fantasy monster. I love him in tier 3.
All right, who are you going with, Julian?
Yeah, Collins is definitely an interesting play. I would look at him here, or I would just lock in Jimmy Butler. I took the over on Jimmy Butler off the top of the show, so it would probably be smart of me to say I'm taking him. So let's go with Jimmy Butler.
Maddie, take your pick.
I love John Collins as well. He would be my pick here. I do think he's probably the most popular player in this tier. So again, if you want somebody a little bit more contrarian, I like Victor Oladipo. He hasn't played particularly well recently, but that's why he's in tier 3. In terms of pure talent, this guy is not a tier 3 player. So I think this could be a good opportunity to buy low against him, against a Phoenix team that plays 0 defense.
Alrighty. Pretty good stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and which player from the final 3 tiers, the tiers of the people, are you taking here?
Tiers of the working man.
Any must rosters, Julian? I know that's a strong wording there, must roster from those.
Yeah, there's a lot of players you can look at here, so I don't want to say must roster, but just to continue with the OKC theme, everybody's looking at Jimmy Butler revenge night. Everybody's looking at Russell Westbrook and Paul George in Atlanta. What about Dennis Schroeder's revenge night back to Atlanta? He said that he wanted an opportunity to win, and he's doing that in OKC. This is a guy that, is he the best player? No. Can he torch the backcourt of the Atlanta Hawks? Absolutely. Schroeder's coming off 37 DraftKings points in his last game. I think he's in a spot where he can, for tier 6, produce some big numbers.
I mean, Matt, we could all hear you just hysterically laughing.
The giggler.
Yeah.
I just love that everybody has a revenge game now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude,
I can't wait.
straight.
If I ever leave this show, anytime I go on that, I'm just pure hatred for all the people at DraftKings. Just kidding. I would never do that.
Hot take.
Yeah, come on. Easy, kid.
I'm going to say that my must play is in tier 5, and he goes by the name of Trae Young. I love his spot tonight against the Thunder. No Jeremy Lin at backup point guard. Still no Kent Bazemore. And Taurean Prince is going to be on a 15-minute limit. That sounds like a whole lot of Trae Young to me. We know that he can have these games where he goes off. And I think if Atlanta does keep it close, Young is going to be a huge part of it. So I like the idea of maybe targeting Young with some of the Oklahoma City superstars and using that as like a little bit of a mini game stack and hoping that it stays competitive.
Jeff?
I have Corey Brewer in a revenge game. No, I'm kidding. But Corey Brewer did sign with the
That hates
76ers,
you.
and he's playing against his old Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. I'm going with this is a little bit of a reach, but a guy I've been riding, Brandon Ingram. He's gone over 30 in 6 of his last 10, so I don't think you can go by the averages. He's in tier 4. This is a home matchup against the Bulls. The Lakers need something going. LeBron's still not back. I'm putting it all in with Brandon Ingram tonight to have a big game.
All right, good stuff, gentlemen. Be ready to join us for the final block with your showdown picks, please. First, we've got one more go-around with our NFL panel coming up right after this update from Pat Mayo on the Desert Classic. Not Dessert Classic, Desert Classic.
Yeah, good job. You read that good.
3 guys off the hop because I think they're going to be chalky, and I know what I want to do with one of them. The other 2, I don't really know. One is Hudson Swafford. As I mentioned on the show with Jeff, he's my one-and-done pick for the week. I bet him at 55-1. He's already down to 40-1. He's a good price on DraftKings at $8,300. He's going to be uber popular this week, no doubt. He's someone that I'm still going to use anyway. What do you make of Hudson Swafford? Is there, if let's say he's going to be projected like 24% ownership, would that make him a fade for you?
Yeah, probably. I like him. He obviously played really well tee to green last week and gained some strokes putting, but I can't pay that for a guy that I don't think is elite status yet, and or not pay that, but I can't play for that much ownership. So I am going to play him, kind of like you said. I just won't probably in my GBPs if I do like a max entry stuff. He won't be in my pool if the ownership's that high.
The next guy who is shaping up to be incredibly chalky, he is down to 66-1 in the betting market, $7,500 on DraftKings, qualified on Monday last week at the Sony Open, turned that into a top 5. He's now in this tournament. The game sets up really well as a guy who's a preeminent ball striker, a good par 3 player, and someone who cannot putt. But hey, we've seen bad putters win this event before. It's my home brethren. Corey Connors. I can see him being like 25% owned this week. Everyone is on Corey Connors. I feel more comfortable fading him than I do with Hudson Swafford, but I do also like his prospects at the same time. What do you make of Corey Connors?
Yeah, I was initially just going to fade Corey Connors. The price I think is still reasonable, but higher ownership, I think coming off the good finish last week. The one thing that concerns me as far as a fade, I think everyone knows he's a pretty good ball striker, but these greens are historically kind of the easiest to putt on throughout the season. So him being a historical bad putter, I'm kind of nervous. Like if he gets off to a decent start, he can hang around for like a top 15. But right now I'm planning to just fade him completely and just, hope for the best.
Another player coming off a hot week. In fact, he holed out 3 Eagles from beyond 100 yards at one point during the Sony Open. It's Chez Reavie, someone who has a lot of experience at this course. He's very high priced. He comes in at $9,200. He too will be incredibly popular. Are you going to fade or play him?
100% fade. Not even considering it.
Really? How come?
I just don't want his form here has not been the best. Like he's never really popped, even coming off of good showings through this kind of West Coast swing. His stats look great. He's going to be popular. Little price jump. I'd rather just fade him. And if he misses the cut, great. If he finishes, 30th or worse, it's still probably pretty good.
All right, welcome back to the Sweat. Should we talk some football, Emerson?
No, I want to talk hockey.
Okay, well, we're talking football. We can't do it without these guys. In their final appearance tonight, it's DK Live's Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, and Jeff Ulrich, and everybody's ditched their coats.
Yes, everyone looks a lot more comfortable and less sweaty, Jeffrey. We're playing.
Oh, that worked.
We're playing Take Your Pick, an NFC Championship edition. So, which player at each position do you prefer for this week's Classic Mode DFS contest? We hit on some of the AFC players earlier, so we're going to focus on the players from the NFC Championship game here, which is why it's an NFC Championship game edition. Let's start here with running backs. Reed.
Good idea.
Who do you expect to have the better game on Sunday afternoon? Todd Gurley, C.J. Anderson, Alvin Kamara, or Mark Ingram?
Yeah, I like Kamara in this spot. I think obviously you can make a really good case for Todd Gurley. Look, both the Saints and the Rams are number 1 and 2, right? The Rams being number 1 in adjusted line yards over the season, and the Saints being number 2. But if you look at Kamara, what he's able to do, he hasn't been playing up to expectation. We have a virtual split of 60-40 with this tandem, with Kamara getting the more of the snaps than Ingram. And really, I think the Saints are going to be down in this game. I think they're going to be having to play catch up. And when you want that guy who's catching the passes out of the backfield. So I do like Kamara in this spot. Gurley isn't, again, a smash spot, but upside, give me Kamara.
All right, Steve, go ahead. Make your argument for C.J. Anderson. Let's hear it.
No. I mean, both teams have been pretty solid against the run. So, kind of like what Reed alluded to, like, nobody's really in a great spot here. No one really jumps out at you as a must play. But yeah, I agree with Reed. It's got to be Kamara here. I mean, look, he outcarried Ingram 16-9 in that last game, had 4 targets compared to the 2 that Ingram had. And, one thing Kamara does too, and we saw in that last game on that touchdown ended up being called back, he lines up as a receiver in a lot of these games too. He had 10 snaps as a receiver in the last game. He's seen up to 15 during the regular season. So it's kind of a sneaky spot for him that, I don't think gets touched upon enough because he does catch out of the backfield. But like I just mentioned, he does line up as a receiver too as well. And then with Gurley and, CJ Anderson, I mean, it's just hard to decipher what they're doing here. I mean, I was honestly surprised, I think, as everyone was, with how the game plan went with those two. So, I don't want to call it a split, but, that's kind of what we saw last week. So it's kind of hard to put all the eggs in one basket here. So Kamara's kind of the guy here by default.
All right, well, Jeff, what are the chances you're picking someone not named Kamara?
I'm going to go with Todd Gurley. I know he actually played. Look, Gurley actually was outsnapped by C.J. Anderson last week. But if you follow along what Sean McVay said, it wasn't a knee issue. It was a conditioning issue. The guy hadn't played football for a month. And he still performed really well. He got 16 rushes. He got a few targets in the pass game. I think this is the game where you see the jump. You see Todd Gurley get over 60%. And I also think they're going to need him in this game. Todd Gurley is the much better pass receiver than C.J. Anderson. And that is what they're going to have to exploit in this matchup with the Saints. He got 6 catches in the first game versus New Orleans. Didn't do much with them, but I still think that this is the game. This is the game where you're going to see it switch. C.J. Anderson's going to take a more secondary role. I think the Saints are going to be able to stop the C.J. Anderson train where Dallas couldn't. And I think Gurley is going to take control of this game at some point and see a pretty high snap count. So my prediction is for Gurley. Obviously, Kamara is still in a really good spot. It's a strange game because it's almost like you have 4 number 1 running backs to choose from. And honestly, either one of them could come out of the lead today, but I'm going to go with Gurley.
Yeah, I think Jeff's onto something here. Kamara is averaging north of 21 fantasy points per game at home this year compared to Gurley, who's averaging north of 27 on the road.
Ooh.
Jeff, I'm onto you.
Okay, well, guys, Michael Thomas is in a class of his own at wide receiver, so let's just leave him out of this conversation because it really wouldn't be fair. So, Steve, between Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, or Ted Ginn Jr., who is the best choice for DFS?
Yeah, it's got to be Robert Woods. I mean, he probably arguably has the best matchup on this slate. He's going to be that welcoming matchup against P.J. Williams, who was just absolutely abysmal against the Eagles last week. I mean, he was targeted against 6 times, allowed 3 receptions, 57 yards. 33 of those came after the catch with a touchdown score. That was the 8th one he's allowed this season. But I also want to mention, don't forget about Ted Ginn Jr. I mean, Drew Brees underthrew him number of times in that game last week. And, the game log doesn't show it, but he really has the potential to have a really big game there, but he just had some real crap passes thrown his way. So I think he has a lot bigger chance of a good game here this week. So it's definitely Woods, but I think Ginn is not someone to be forgotten about either.
Jeff, you taking either of those guys?
No.
Ooh.
Say it with me, people.
Oh, God.
Brandon Cooks revenge game.
Oh, there it is,
here. It's the playoffs. Brandon Cooks can knock Sean Payton out of the playoffs. The guy who traded him away after like 2 seasons, a very productive season with the Saints, when everyone was, we're going to build the offense around. Then he just shoved him off. Oh, man, give me all the Brandon Cooks. He went for 100 yards in their first matchup, too. I think it's the way worse matchup for Marcus Latimer, by the way, too. He does get matched up. Alshon Jeffrey, the big receiver, the physical one. Lattimore doesn't mind you playing that. Cooks burdened him pretty good in the first game. I really like the spot for Brandon Cooks. So give me him out of these 3. I will say this, though. Steve is right about Ginn. Only takes 1 play with Ted Ginn. He's got the dropsies, but yeah, he could be sneaky. But give me.
You hate to see the dropsies. Reed, what do you think about that Cooks pick?
Traquan Smith, 100%.
No, I'm not going Traquan Smith for this question. No, I'm with Steve here. Look, Brandon Cooks, like Jeff hit the nail on the head there. And if you look at the Rams, 22nd during the regular season ranked in long or deep passes. But you look at the Saints, they're even worse than that. And so Robert Woods isn't that guy. But he's got, 2 games where he's gotten single digits. And this guy works across the middle. And the Saints are terrible across the middle. That's what, Steve was alluding to. You have Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Jordan Matthews got a touchdown across the middle, and that's PJ Williams's lane or his place where he wants to operate and just do completely bad against these opposing receivers. Robert Woods is that safe floor guy, and look, Brandon Cooks can take the top off. You're right, this is a revenge game, but give me Woods in this matchup.
You guys listened to too much Troy Aikman last week.
Oh.
Troy Aikman thinks Robert Woods is like the best receiver in the world.
Well, yeah, he's not the best receiver of all time, but he's got the best matchup.
Put your jacket back on.
Oh, okay. Guys, next question. At quarterback, we've got Jared Goff, who only had less than 9 fantasy points last week against the Cowboys. On the other end of the spectrum, that's Drew Brees, who had his best fantasy performance in 5 weeks against the Eagles. Jeff, I believe yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Monday. Who would you rather roster at this time around? I think you said Jared Goff, right? You like Jared over Drew Brees?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it kind of comes down to just how you think this game is going to go. The Saints, they're a funnel defense. Make fun of the word or the phrasing all you want. They're just so good at stopping the run. And the Rams have the personnel to take advantage of the way they force the pass. So I talked about, I like the matchup with Brandon Cooks. I think Steve is right. I mean, Robert Woods working out of the slot is definitely not someone you need to necessarily 100% fade either. And then you have Todd Gurley, who's just a very underrated receiver. He's back after one game under his belt now. I think Jared Goff is in for a big game here. Again, Drew Brees, yeah, he's nice, but Steve alluded to this too. He's underthrowing Ted. Like, he's missing on the long bombs. This guy's almost 40 years old. I'm not saying he's done, but he just doesn't have the same zip. They're taking him out of the red zone for Taysom Hill. I've said that like a million times this year, but it's happening. It's true. Give me Jared Goff this week. I think he's going to outscore Drew Brees.
Reed, the old seasoned vet or the young gun?
Yeah, I'm with Jeff here. I like Jared Goff, especially if you look at, both guys' ceilings and floors are pretty similar. The Saints not really scoring a ton over the last 5 games, averaging about 19 points, which we alluded to yesterday as well. But look at this secondary for New Orleans, right? And now you have the personnel on the Rams side. The secondary is giving up 20 points, or just that team defense giving up 20 points over the last few games. If you take out those Carolina Panthers games when they're throwing out their second and third string quarterbacks, you really like Goff in this spot. They're going to have to put up points, obviously, with how the Saints are able to put up 30-plus points outside of that last game at home. So, yeah, I'm with Jeff here that Goff is in the right spot, is in the prime spot between the two.
All right, Steve. Brees had 4 touchdowns, no picks in their first matchup. Goff, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick earlier this season. I don't know why I'm reading you that. You probably know that by now, but who do you like?
I appreciate it. You put some effort in. Honestly, I'm surprised. I actually, way my notes were catered here. I kind of thought that I was going to be the only one on Goff, but apparently not. And what my argument was going to be was that you look at the game they had against the Cowboys and how it really wasn't that great, and you kind of have to expect that. I mean, the Cowboys defensively were really good. I don't think they get enough credit for how good they were, especially against opposing receivers and opposing quarterbacks. And that's exactly what the Saints don't do well, is defend against those positions. I mean, opposing quarterbacks averaging 280 yards against the Saints, just under 2 passing touchdowns per game here. And then I think the Rams are going to legitimately have a hard time establishing the run in this game. That's where the Saints excel, was stopping opposing running backs. So I think Goff is very much in play here, especially for tournaments. I think Brees is an obvious cash play here on a small 2-game slate. But yeah, I think Goff is in a really good spot this week.
All right, guys, real quick, we're running out of time here, so keep these answers tight. How about some value plays? We had Keith Kirkwood hauling in a TD against the Eagles last week, and Tyler Higbee had 2 catches again on 4 targets against the Cowboys. Reed, which one of these would you be willing to risk a roster spot on? Jeez. Wow, tongue twister.
Really quick.
No. Out of the 2, I think it's Kirkwood. But if it's someone else, it's Traquan Smith, man, give me that guy. He's averaging about 17 yards per catch. So value play only, people. He's not a cash play, but Kirkwood out of those 2.
Steve.
I hate both of them. I'm not touching either one of them. Honestly, if you're going to go low, just go with Ted Ginn, with the reasons I was saying earlier. 1 big play and you're reaching value there. So forget those 2 guys. Go with Ted Ginn.
Jeffrey.
I actually like the Traquan Smith call. So, look, one of these scrub receivers for the Saints is going to go off and have a
unbelievable
game. Just hope he gets matched up with Marcus Peters on 1 ball. That's all you need. I like the Traquan Smith. I can't believe I'm saying I'm with Reed on this.
It's okay.
Wow.
Built,
yes, with Reed.
Built by UCF, young gentlemen.
Okay.
Excellent work.
Okay, no one cares. Seriously.
Yeah, no, seriously, everybody cares. All right, dude, go enjoy your evening. One more segment to go, folks. Hey, anything for you. We've got NBA Showdown picks coming your way.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Dallas Mavericks appear to be moving on from point guard Dennis Smith Jr. According to a report from ESPN, the Mavs are escalating talks to trade the former number 9 overall pick in the 2017 NBA Draft. Smith has been sidelined for the past 3 games of what the team is calling a sore back, and in that time, both sides have come to the decision to end their relationship. The reason why is that things have soured so quickly with Smith in Dallas is partly because the emergence of rookie sensation Luka Doncic that has moved Smith off the ball. Smith numbers have been pretty much down across the board because of that change, and now he's averaging around 12 points and 4 assists per game. The 2 teams that ESPN points to as being the most aggressive in acquiring Smith are the Phoenix Suns and Orlando Magic. Along with Smith, the Mavs are also looking to dump some salary and trade veteran Wes Matthews. He's making $18.6 million in the final year of his deal, so the Mavs have a couple of irons in the fire this trading season.
Alrighty, back for more, are you? Good, great, grand, wonderful. Because we have NBA Showdown help coming your way thanks to these 3, Julian, Matt, and Jeff.
So, help us make some picks in both of tonight's Showdown contests.
That's what we're doing. Captain's picks.
Thunder and Hawks, as well as the Bulls and the Lakers. Jules, who would you captain in the Thunder and Hawks matchup? Like, would you throw Russell Westbrook atop your roster, kind of risking the way you're going to be building the rest of your roster?
Well, there's 2 ways that you can go here. You can probably roster one of those studs like Westbrook or Paul George in your captain spot. Because of all the injuries we talked about on the Hawks earlier, you have value to fill out the rest of your lineup. Or you can go the other way and use one of those value plays, a DeAndre Bembry, and Alex Len. Omari Spellman is probably the cheapest you could possibly go. And then you're definitely going to have the room to fit probably Westbrook and George, maybe even a John Collins type player in there. So I think I would probably go all the way down so that we can fit, more good players into the lineup and then fill it out from there rather than roster a guy like Westbrook or George.
Jeff, who do you captain? What's your strategy?
I captain Russell Westbrook. My strategy for Showdown captain mode for the NBA is take the best player, put them in the captain spot, and then try to find value from that. It's different to me than football where you're trying to maybe get a competitive advantage because a guy like Russell Westbrook has the most fantasy points on his team. Maybe not with Paul George, it's a little different, but probably 7 or 8 times out of 10. So I go Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were having Karin on the show tonight.
Ooh. Hey, why don't you save it, buddy? Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I could not disagree with Jeff anymore on this. I am much more of a proponent of going with someone cheap in my captain spot and trying to load up as many studs as possible. I think that Jules hit the nail right on the head. I love Alex Len as like a contrarian captain. I think DeAndre Bembry is probably the obvious guy if you're paying down, but if you do that, you can get in, basically whoever else you want on the roster.
All right, guys, where can people find value in this matchup, Matt?
Yeah, Len is my guy. I think that Spellman drawing the start is going to scare a lot of people off of Len, but this is a spot where the Hawks need a traditional center, so I'm expecting him to play more minutes tonight.
Jeff?
Let's go old man Vince Carter at 3,300. I know his stats have been down, but his minutes have been about the same, so I'll take the chance on him.
Julian?
I don't know if we need to go all the way down to Vinsanity. I think
if you're captaining Westbrook.
Well, I'm captaining Westbrook, so I need.
All right. Well, yeah, then maybe you do. I agree that Alex Len's a great guy. Bembry's going to be probably an obvious guy that's really high owned. Omari Spellman I like a lot. Who's the last guy we left off here? I think I can never say this kid's name right, but Kevin Huerter.
Herder, dude, get it right. All right.
Legend.
He's good. Take him.
We have like a minute left in the show. Rapid fire real quick. Who do you captain in the Bulls-Lakers matchup? Jeff?
Brandon Ingram.
Julian?
I kind of agree. Ingram or Kuzma there for me.
Matt?
Zach LaVine.
All right, finally, looking at this entire 6-game slate, who is your slate-approved pick? Julian?
Jimmy Butler revenge night.
Ooh, Matt?
Trae Young.
Trae Young. Jeff?
Joel Embiid, big-time players, big-time game.
Ooh.
I like that a lot.
All righty, well, this has been The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. We'll be back tomorrow at 6, right? Where are we going to be?
We're going to be right here.
On Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the DK Live app, which you should download right now because, as we know, injuries, stuff like that, got to be on the front end of that. So download the DK Live.
People.
Yeah, up-to-date updates. And we'll be back tomorrow at 6. Please join us. Please, seriously, tell your friends.
Wow. Wow.